Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pratarine Nirbhisesa Shunyavadi Kasyatya Desatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Drum is not exactly in harmony. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, hare-rama, hare-rama, rama-rama, hare-hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Brahmadakacharya Asadhara Satushi Shriman. His Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Smaraj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Haribo Slava Zabrani Bhaktam Slava Shri Guru Shri Grangi. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthapute Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tenamane. Namaste Saraswatam Deve Gauravani Vacharane. Nirvishesha Srinivadi Bhaskadya Desatarana. Oma Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhayam Tadati Swapadantikam Pandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shiva Sakans Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prashubhanu Sudadevi Pranamami Hri Priye Vanchakapa Trivyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patidanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pranityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Do we have a nectar of instruction here? I'm going to read from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter 10, Opulence of the Absolute. Text number 35. Prihat samatata samyam gayatri chanda samaham. Prihat samatata samnam gayatri chanda samaham. Masana magarshishyoham. Ritinam kusamakraha. Prihat samatata samnam Gayatri chanda samaham Masana margashirshoham Ritunam kusamakaraha Prihat samatata samnam Gayatri chanda samaham Namargashirshoham Ritunam kusamakaraha Priyat samatata samnam Gayatri chanda samaham Masana magarshishyoham Ritunam kusamakaraha Brihat Sama, the Brihat Sama, Tata, also, Samnam, of the Samaveda songs, Gayatri, the Gayatri hymns, Chandasam, of all poetry, Aham, I am. Masanam, of months, Margashirshaha, the months of November to December. Aham, I am. Ritunam, of all seasons. Kusama akaraha, spring. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Of all hymns in the Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama, and of poetry I am the Gayatri. Of months I am Margashirsha, November to December, and of seasons I am the flower-bearing spring. Purport. It has already been explained by the Lord that amongst all the Vedas, He is the Samaveda. The Samaveda is rich with beautiful songs played by the various demigods. One of these songs is the Brihat Sama, which has an exquisite melody that is sung at midnight. In Sanskrit, there are definite rules that regulate poetry. Rhyme and meter are not written whimsically, as in much modern poetry. Amongst the regulated poetry, the Gayatri Mantra, which is chanted by the duly qualified brahmanas, is the most prominent. The Gayatri Mantra is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the Gayatri Mantra is especially meant for God realization, it represents the Supreme Lord. The mantra is meant for spiritually advanced people, and when one obtains success in chanting it, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must first acquire the qualities of a perfectly situated person, the qualities of goodness, according to the laws of material nature, in order to chant the Gayatri Mantra. The Gayatri Mantra is very important in Vedic civilizations and is considered to be the sound incarnation of Brahman. Brahma is its initiator, and is passed down from him in disciple succession. The month of November-December is considered the best of all months, because in India grains are collected for the fields at this time, and the people become very happy. Of course, spring is a season universally liked, because it is neither too hot nor too cold, and the flowers and trees blossom and flourish. In spring there are also many ceremonies commemorating Krishna's pastimes. Therefore it is considered to be the most joyful of all seasons, and is a representative of the Supreme Lord Krishna. Brihat samatata samnam gayatri chandasamaham masanam margashirshoham ritunam kusamakaraha. Of the hymns, that's nectar of instruction.
We are looking for this, or we are looking. I found only this because it's so hard, but
has nothing to do with what I'm looking for.
it's not the one.
Nectar of instruction.
This is all.
That's nectar of devotion. Okay. So I just put it down there.
No, I'll try to.
No, anyhow, you missed the class by the time you just. Do you have a nectar of instruction with you?
Yes, with plenty of post-it notes if you are interested.
Do they taste good?
Try. Actually, yes, I think. Is it green?
Yeah. If you have orange ones, that's good. Orange posties. Of the hymns, I am the Samaveda. Of the hymns in the Samaveda, I am the Brihat Sama, and of poetry, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsha, numbered November, December. The seasons, I am the flower-bearing spring. Where are you going?
Just take a seat.
Okay. Try to escape. In the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada writes in the 5th chapter, 5th verse, which we should get shortly, that faith means to understand the whole Bhagavad Gita entirely. Not to take one portion of it and accept it. It's bona fide. Well, that's not so many notes. Oh yeah, it's colorful.
Yeah, you can fold them away.
It's all right. This is what Prabhupada says. This is the 5th chapter, the end of the 5th chapter. By rendering transcendental service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. That's a famous verse. Shraddha sabde vishvasakahe, surida nischai, Krishna bhakti kaile sarva kama kritahai. By rendering transcendental service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. This confident, firm faith, favorable to the discharge of devotional service, is called Shraddha. Shraddha, faith in Krishna, is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Faith means strong faith. The words of Bhagavad Gita are authoritative instructions for faithful men. And whatever Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita is to be accepted as it is without interpretation. This was the way Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita. After hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna told Krishna, Saram etam ritam manye yanvadvadasi keshava. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. This is the correct way of understanding Bhagavad Gita, and this is called Shraddha. It is not that one accepts a portion of Bhagavad Gita according to his own whimsical interpretation and rejects another portion. This is not Shraddha. Shraddha means accepting the instructions of Bhagavad Gita in their totality, especially the last instruction. Sarva dharma prityaja mame kam sharanam braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 1866. One becomes completely faithful in regards to this instruction when strong faith becomes a basis for advancing in spiritual life. So this is very important because everything is based on Shraddha. In other words, we have to accept Bhagavad Gita in its entirety. So that may seem quite simple, but generally our minds just pass over the parts of the Bhagavad Gita that we just don't really accept, either because we have no experience or we don't really care about. So every verse, practically speaking, is full of things that have no meaning to us. No meaning to us means that we're in ignorance, and therefore they have no meaning to us. But we take ignorance as normal. Of course, we can always go back to the first instruction of Bhagavad Gita, that we're not this body, just to check and see how much ignorance we're in. Because that knowledge is indisputable. The fact that our bodies are changing, but we're not changing. So that means that we're conscious, but that will help us become conscious of how unconscious we are. Now there are other things mentioned here, like for instance in this purport Prabhupada mentioned Brahma. Brahma gave us the Gayatri mantra. Now how many people really believe there's such a person called Brahma? And if we explained it to people that he had 4 heads, he created the universe, most people wouldn't take it seriously, just like they don't usually take us very seriously either. And we don't take it very seriously either. Because there's so many implications to these things. Vedic cosmology, Vedic medicine, Vedic sociology. These are all things that are foundational points of faith. In other words, we can't say, yeah, Bhagavad Gita is pretty good. Krishna got one thing right, we're not this body. And everything else is more or less, who knows where it came from? Because we've been brainwashed since we were born by so-called material science, speculative sociology, philosophy. Our minds have been filled up with all kinds of things. And therefore, when we hear about the earth circumambulating or going around the sun because Galileo says so, and all the scientists say so, our school teacher said so, everyone says so, so it must be right. But Prabhupada didn't say so. Of course we can find, we can debate about that too, we can always find something. But Vedic cosmology means the sun is on a chariot circumambulating the universe on Mandara Mountain, attached to it with a wheel of wind, with a rope of wind. And we think, well, this is really getting too far out there. The universe is in the form of a lotus flower. Brahma was sitting on the top of the lotus flower. I mean, these things we'd rather not hear about. Because it really puts us, we think it's putting us into the realm of science fiction, or fairy tales at worst. Therefore, one has to actually study these things to actually understand actually what's being talked about. Whether or not people who have imperfect senses have a tendency to cheat, commit mistakes, or an illusion, they can actually tell us reality. As if our modern scientists, philosophers, and other leaders have created a perfect civilization where everyone's happy and peaceful. No, they've created a civilization where, for instance, in every part of it, there's some defect. Fiat money. A few people can print up as much money as they want. And people accept it, which is absurd when you look at it. If you have a printing press and you legalize it, you print up as much money as you want. You don't even have to print up the money. All you do is have to enter into a computer. And if anyone else does it, they get arrested for forgery or for stealing. But if certain people do it without any authorization, then they become trillionaires. And then they can pay off all the other people. Keep quiet. Don't complain. I'm giving you part of it. Honor amongst thieves. And then they can pay off the university professors, the scientists, the administrators, everyone else, and get us to believe that life came out of nothing. We're all descendants of the apes, and they're descendants of the dinosaurs. They can get us to believe anything we want. That's all people know from their childhood. But with a little intelligence, then we can see the sun's moving exactly in an orbit. So what's moving it? They say gravity is moving the sun. Or actually, gravity is moving the Earth planet. Or something like that. I can't figure out what. And because of gravity, so why doesn't the Earth fly into the sun? The sun's supposed to be so big. Why doesn't the Earth get attracted to the sun? Centrifugal force, they say, or something like that. But if gravity was what keeps things in the, well, I guess gravity makes things fall to the earth, then why don't these clouds with thousands of kilos of water in them, why don't they fall to the earth? Why do they float in the air? Why is that an elephant will float on the water, but if you put a little pin on the water, it'll sink? So there's a lot of things to be answered, but the point is that two things. We're actually conscious souls, and that there's a supreme conscious soul. And he's given it these books, and he says things, for instance, that he's Gayatri Mantra. And Gayatri Mantra was the sound of Krishna's flute entering into the ears of Brahma and coming out his mouth. Gayatri Mantra is the sound of Krishna's flute. So, we can chant Gayatri Mantra, or we can chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and if we have faith, we can actually experience these things. We can experience Krishna's presence, and therefore we'll develop more faith. But if we think the whole thing's a fairy tale, any part of it, then automatically when we chant Hare Krishna, we won't take it very seriously. That this is too extraordinary, the whole thing is doubtful. Why? Because the material scientists, they've given us a vision of existence of this world which puts everyone into doubt about their own identity and about the existence of God especially, of a supreme person, controlling the universe, controlling every part of the universe all the time. The whole modern civilization, as Prabhupada said, which is meant to keep people in darkness. And people have accepted it. Why? Adantago bira vishitam tamizram punak punas charvita charvanana. Because they've come up with this idea that sense gratification will make you happy. That if you can just get the right combination of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then you'll be happy. If you can just get regular and steady and secure eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, then certainly you'll be blissful all the time. And if you don't believe it, then people just keep on propaganda, more and more propaganda. That success in life is to get the best car, the best house, the most money in the bank, the newest technology, etc., etc. And then you'll be happy. That you can be, and you could be happy without any higher consciousness. The lower your consciousness, the happier you'll be. If you can eat like a hog, sleep like a bear, have sex like a pigeon, and defend yourself like a tiger, then your life is going to be sublime. So, in such a upbringing, such a animal, being brought up in such an animalistic society, with trying to convince people that there's no higher realm of experience than what we're experiencing on this gross earth planet. And then when we look at, of course sometimes they have this idea of UFOs, aliens, but they're always depicted as some kind of little green man flying around in a saucer. They always have their weapons trying to zap the people. They're never depicted as higher beings. One of the few television programs I remember from my childhood, it was called, what was the name of that series? What was the name? There was the name of a series that had always these weird endings to it. Twilight Zone, yeah, that's it. So the Twilight Zone, I can't remember the whole thing, but there's these aliens that came to Earth. And they had this book, it was called To Serve Man. To serve man. So the book was passed, everyone found out that these aliens had come, they had a book to serve man, and they thought, wow, this is great, we always wanted to be served. And the aliens were taking human beings to their planet to be served. So everyone was trying to get aboard the spaceship. So one man, he decided to go, yeah, I always wanted to be served. So he's just about to get on the spaceship, and his secretary runs up and says, so-and-so, stop. We translated this book, and it turns out to be a cookbook. And he didn't want to get on the spaceship, but this big alien just threw him on the spaceship, closed the door, and they took off. And certainly he was served. So that's the conception. Aliens are always either little green people or kind of crazy people trying to destroy Earth. Some monster or something. You never have an Indra coming, or Brahma, or Shiva, any higher persons with higher intelligence who are actually in the mode of goodness. No, they're always in ignorance. And the whole universe is, mostly they say it's just it's just dead matter, just somehow or another held in space. And here the only living entities, the highest development, are the human beings on this planet. And they're the pinnacle of civilization, killing the animals, killing their children, destroying the planet. This is the furthest civilization has ever come. Killing each other. So, we have a choice. Either we can believe what it says in Bhagavad Gita, and when Krishna says something about how the body works, how the universe works, how everything works, either we accept it and think Krishna knows what he's talking about, or we think Krishna just kind of like blanks out once in a while. He just doesn't know what's going on. Therefore, he comes up with these things that no one really is going to believe, or the scientists have disproven. That it's really not important, the fire of digestion. As Krishna says, Aham Vaishvano Bhutva Praninam Dehinam. No. Aham Vaishvanam Bhutva Praninam Deha. What's that? Ashritya. Prana Pana Samayuktva Pajamnanam Chaturvidam. It's not really so. There's no such thing as the airs of life in the body. There's no such. The fire of digestion is really not important. Digestion is not that important. This is just, Krishna had to fill up the book, otherwise we couldn't have anything to sell. Kama Vishitu Bhutani Daryamaham Ojasa. That he enters into the planets, and by his energy they stay in orbit. Probably in one place he said, well, if you want to call it gravity, still it's Krishna's energy. So unless we have a personalistic view that in every place, every time, every moment, Krishna is controlling everything, and what he says in Bhagavad Gita and other Vedic literature is actually has knowledge, and everything besides that is ignorance, then our faith will be lacking. And our faith is lacking. When we chant Hare Krishna, we really won't believe that Krishna and Srimati Radharani are present when we chant Hare Krishna, and therefore they won't be present. At least not for us. So we can't have faith in just one part of Bhagavad Gita and then read it and think, just kind of like gloss over it. It's embarrassing. Keeps on mentioning Brahma, Shiva. Who could believe this? Who can believe that, Krishna's energy is moving the planets, Krishna is the fire of digestion, and he's digesting our food stuff for us. He's in our heart, and from him comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So unless we study these things and understand them and then try to put them into practice, for instance, ask Krishna what he wants us to do, respect the fire of digestion, whatever we can do, then if we do that, if we take it seriously, then we'll develop faith. And if we don't, then our faith will be lacking. And when our faith is lacking, our dealings will be lacking. We won't take seriously how Krishna says we should interact with each other, nor how we should eat, even how we should sleep, how we should deal with our health, how we do with everything. Faith will be lacking, and we'll have to suffer the consequences. And we won't be able to chant Hare Krishna with full faith. something will be lacking there. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we have questions from Adutarai Prabhu. If a Vaishnava devotee is greedy for money, in his greed for wealth different from ordinary greed. So
wait a second.
Yes.
Before, maybe there's some question about the class? As strange as it might be. Before we get into Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Is there any questions or comments? Adi Purusha almost has a question. No. Okay. Okay, let's have a Roy.
Yes. If a Vaishya devotee is greedy for money, is his greed for wealth different from ordinary greed?
If a Vaishya is greedy for money?
Yes. And he's asking then if his greed for wealth is different from ordinary greed.
Of course, it's just ordinary greed. Trividha narakasyedam dwaram nashitam atmana kama krodha tatalobhas tasmat etam trayam chita. There are three gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should get free from these three gates because they lead to the degradation of the self. So the only greed that's valuable is tatra loyam mulyam ekalam janmakoti sukrita nalabhyate. That Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati kriyatam mulyam ekalam janmakoti sukrita nalabhyate. Krishna bhakti rasita bhavitamati kriyatam kutopi labhyate. Tatra loyam mulyam ekalam janmakoti sukritarna labhyate. That Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati, becoming absorbed in the mellows of Krishna consciousness. That's the only tatra loyam mulyam ekalam. That's the only greed that's legal. Everything else is mundane. Yes.
Then in the Bhagavatam, Sankhya and Ashtanga Yoga are considered to be confidential knowledge. What are the reasons for that?
Because no one will ever ask about them. Sankhya and what?
And Ashtanga Yoga.
Confidential knowledge? No, they're not considered, not in Bhagavad Gita.
In the Bhagavatam.
Bhagavad Gita, they're just... Knowledge means to understand the difference between matter and spirit. That's knowledge. And confidential knowledge is to understand the supersoul. And the most confidential knowledge is to understand devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, karma yoga and jnana yoga, they're not considered really confidential. Unless, karma yoga, anyone, generally speaking, only the Brahmins read the Vedas. And only the Brahmins actually, generally speaking, came out to the platform of Ashtanga Yoga. Actual process, following the path, like someone like Shonaka Rishi. Not Shonaka Rishi, Somika Rishi. So in that sense it was considered confidential. You had to learn it from especially Ashtanga Yoga, you had to learn it from another expert. But compared to devotional service and Krishna consciousness, they're not as confidential.
And the last one question is if the Gayatri mantra is so powerful, why it is secret? It should be distributed to all people.
Because people get in trouble if they chant it. They'll disrespect it and get more into trouble. It's like if you go to Vrindavan and you commit sinful activities, you're going to come back as an animal. being in Vrindavan is not going to help you because you're disrespecting Krishna in the holy place. So similarly, if you're given something and you disrespect it, then you get into more trouble because it's not different from Krishna. It's like being in the holy place and disrespecting it. So if one doesn't take it seriously and honor it, then it actually will degrade one. Anything else? Okay, thank you very much. Grandaraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
last